We are officially halfway through the 2025 MLB season, and we are going to go over and rank every single team going into the second half from 30 to 1. Our championship contenders, are they real? Are they fake? And we have teams that are already on vacation. Let's get into it and break these teams down. Let me know in the comments if I got your ranking right for your favorite team or if I got it wrong. And let me know who you think is the best team in the MLB moving forward into the second half and who you think is going to win the World Series this year. Let's get into it. So like I said, we have our tiers here from 21 to 30, 16 to 20, 11 to 15, 6 to 10, and then 1 to 5. And we're going to go and start with the worst team in baseball and work our way up to the number one team overall going into the second half of the season. Now, this isn't based on just the standings and the records. This is going to be based on overall form, momentum, rotation, offense, you name it, right? We're going to look at everything and see who we feel is the best team in baseball. Starting at number 30, no surprises here. We're going to go with the Colorado Rockies, 22-74. They just don't seem to have it. They do have a solid kind of young team in terms of players that they put on the field, like Hunter Goodman, Mickey Moniak's having a resurgence, Jordan Beck, Tyler Freeman, but their rotation's terrible, their record's terrible. They have no edge or like fight in any game. The Rockies are the worst team in baseball, in my opinion. Second worst team here, we're going to go with the White Sox. They don't really have anybody. I mean, their young core isn't exciting. They just got rid of Andrew Vaughn, who was supposed to be their future. The White Sox are just the 29th overall team in baseball behind the Rockies, and if they had a worse record, they'd be the worst team in baseball. But the Rockies just happen to be worse. So not much we can do about that. That's where we're going to put them. At 28, we're going with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Once again, they have Paul Skeens, but for how long? Is he going to be there for the long term? I don't know. Going into the second half of the season, they did have a little bit of momentum at the end of the first half, but ultimately the Pirates are just a really, really rough team right now outside of Skeens and O'Neal Cruz, and not much excitement for the future for that organization as well. 30, 29, 28, 27, we're going with the Washington Nationals here. The Nats have a young core. I think this is a team that will be poised to be good in the next couple years, but right now they just haven't been able to put it all together. The starting rotation has been a little rough. They do have Gore, who's looked great. They have Wood, and they have Abrams, who've looked awesome. But outside of that, currently just not a ton going on for the Washington Nationals for me to think that they are anything of a threat to move forward into the second half of the season. But maybe in the future, that team could be pretty solid here. 30, 29, 28, 27. At 26, man, this is a tough one, but I got to do it. We're going to go with the A's. Oakland A's, Sacramento A's, Las Vegas A's, whatever you want to call them. 41-57, low payroll. They're at the bottom of the AL West. They're just not really doing much for me here. I do love this team. They are my second favorite team in baseball based on their roster. Guys like Brent Rooker, Lawrence Butler, Jacob Wilson, and now Nick Kurtz are some of my favorite players in baseball. But their rotation, they just aren't consistent. They just aren't doing it for me. I got to put them here in this bottom echelon tier, unfortunately. But it is what it is. It is what it is. 30, 29, 28, 27, 26 with the 25th spot here. We are going to end up going with the Baltimore Orioles. Once again, what a regression on this side. I mean, they had 100 wins a couple years ago. They've been a playoff team for the last few years. They did lose Corbin Burns and Santander in free agency. But overall, I mean, their young core has not shown up this year. Guys like Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Henderson just have not really been doing what they've been doing over the last few seasons. Their young core like Kobe Mayo haven't really emerged yet. And some of their veterans like Tyler O'Neill can't stay healthy. So they're going to be sellers at the deadline. They really need to figure out that pitching rotation if they want to make any sort of moves upward in these standings in the future. But for now, we just got to put them there at 25. Sorry, 30, 29, 28, 27, 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25. Yeah, at 24 here. This is a tough one, man. I gotta, at 24 here, I gotta go with the Marlins. Miami Marlins are sitting 44-51. They are extremely streaky, and they had a great end of the first half, so I was really considering putting them a little bit higher here in the standings, but ultimately, I think that they're a team that could be poised for the future depending how this deadline goes, but I am concerned that they're going to end up trading away some of their key pieces like Edward Cabrera, who has shown to be brilliant. Guys like Yuri Perez, Alcantara in their rotation also can be really solid. Augustine Ramirez, Kyle Stowers, they have some really good pieces for the future, but currently I think they're only the 24th best team in baseball and not much better than that. At 23, we're going to go with the Minnesota Twins. Byron Buxton is one of my favorite players in the MLB, but this offense, it's just not really living up to expectations this year. They can't really stay too healthy. Carlos Correa keeps getting hurt. Royce Lewis is consistently hurt. Their starting rotation with Woods, Richardson, and Festa have been awful. Twins have got to go down there at 23. At 22, we're going to go with the Kansas City Royals. Another team that just, they're just not really doing much this year with the team that they have. Bobby Witt Jr. seems to have taken a little bit of a leap back this year overall in terms of power. Pascantino's been all right. Michael Garcia's been really good from a hitting perspective. Their rotation has pieces that look good like Seth Lugo, Bubic, but ultimately the Royals just are not putting it all together this year. So we got to put them in this bottom tier for now. And then 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22. At 21, we're going to go with the Los Angeles Angels. Once again, it's a similar situation. They have a lot of power hitters: Mike Trout, Joe Adell, Taylor Ward, Zach Neto, Jorge Soler, Logan O'Hoppe, Travis d'Arnaud. Their rotation just has not lived up to par for them this year to really make them competitive. Soriano's been good, but outside of that, just overall pretty disappointing. We're going to put them as the last team here in the bottom of this tier list, and I don't think that they're going to make much of a push into the second half of the year. At number 20, we're going to go with the Texas Rangers here. Texas Rangers, their core is just getting too old, unfortunately. Their best pitcher is Jacob deGrom. He's 37. He's looked outstanding, but he's aging. Corey Seager's getting older. Adolis Garcia is getting older and is potentially a trade target this year. Some of their younger core, like Josh Young, had a Linsanity run a couple years ago, and now this year they're being sent down to AAA. They just don't really have what it takes, in my opinion, to really make a push and keep going forward. So we're going to put them there at the 20 spot. At 19, we're going to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have a really exciting team. On paper, this team should be a top team in the NL. Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Eugenio Suarez, Josh Naylor. They did lose Corbin Burns to Tommy John. Their starting rotation, Zach Gallen's taken a fall off as he's getting older. But, they got to just go at the 19 spot here. I think they're going to be massive sellers. I don't think they're going to have much momentum in the second half of the year. And they're going to build around Carroll and Marte and try to make a big comeback for next year. We're going to put them at 19. At 18, we're going to put the Cincinnati Reds here. The Reds do have a young core, but they're so streaky. Guys like TJ Friedl, Ellie De La Cruz, Tyler Stevenson's been great, Noelvi Marte, Encarnacion Strand. They have some really good pieces. Their rotation with Andrew Abbott has been outstanding, but they're just so streaky and inconsistent that we got to put them down here at 18, and you can't really put them much higher than that. At 17, we're going to put the Atlanta Braves. This is a team that I'm still not convinced are going to be able to make the playoffs, but I don't know how they're 42 and 53. If we look at that lineup, Ronald Acuna Jr., Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Marcell Ozuna, Spencer Strider. They have some outstanding talent on this team. For them to be sitting at 42 and 53 is mind-boggling. I don't know that there's going to be enough time for them to make a huge push. They are, almost 10 games out of the wild card right now. They just have way too much ground to cover to really be able to make any sort of significant progress here with that record. But I do think that they're going to have a strong second half of the year, and they will probably make it close. So we are going to put them in the 17 spot. And then in the last spot in this tier at the 16 spot, this is tough. We could go a few different routes with this one, but I think what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go with the St. Louis Cardinals here. St. Louis Cardinals, they have a veteran core. They're a little bit of an older team. They don't have many young, exciting players that we can really point to. I don't know that they're going to be making a huge push into the second half of the year. They might squeak into the playoffs. There's a chance that they could. But ultimately, this is a team that I think currently is over-exceeding expectations at 51 and 46. There are some better teams in the NL that I do think will make a run. And ultimately, we got to put them at the 16 spot here. Now into this third tier, this middle tier, these are some of the teams that I think have some significant playoff hopes. At 15, we're going to go with the San Diego Padres. Padres are currently sitting at second in the NL West, a half a game above the Giants. Problem is, they have a super high payroll. They have a lot of star power. They're just not putting it all together by any means this year. Machado's having a solid year, but Fernando Tatis has been a bit disappointing based on who he is and what he's capable of. Dylan Cease has been all right. Some of their rotation guys are decent, but not great. Their bullpen is okay. They have a great closer in Ranger Suarez, but in Suarez, but they just, to me, the Padres do not give me that top 10 level team right now going into the second half. Right in front of them, though, we are going to put at 14 the San Francisco Giants. They did make some significant moves here. They've made some great moves in terms of Rafael Devers, right? Willy Adames at the deadline. They have Logan Webb still, Robbie Ray, but outside of that, there's not much excitement for me with the Giants. They might squeeze into a NL wildcard spot here, but I just don't see it. A team that we probably should have had lower, but we're going to put in here now, 15, 14. At 13, we're going to go with the Cleveland Guardians, and this is mainly based on just the fact that they made such a deep run last year, right? The Cleveland Guardians, this is probably overinflated. I already know what the comments are going to say. You shouldn't have them up in this tier. They should be in the 16 to 20 range, which I could see the argument for that. But when I look at the Cleveland Guardians, I do think that they're going to be a second half team that's going to make a push. Jose Ramirez, outstanding this year. He just needs to get his power numbers up a little bit more. Tanner Bibby's shown signs of being good. Kyle Manzardo has been a great power bat for them when he plays. Stephen Kwan's been a huge on-base guy. They have an outstanding bullpen. They're just one of those teams that knows how to win, and I think that they're going to make a significant push in the second half. They're going to get above 500 right outside of the break, and then they're going to push towards that wild card spot and try to make another run in the playoffs last year. I mean, if we think about it, the Guardians were really close to making the World Series last year, so I could see them making a significant push upwards, and that is why we're going to have them at the 13 spot here today, even though a lot of you guys are going to say that's an overinflated range. So, at the 12 spot, we're going to go with the Seattle Mariners here. The Seattle Mariners, if we look at their record, they're second place in the AL West, sitting at 51-45. They do have Cal Raleigh, the home run derby champion, by the way, Cal Raleigh. He is set to break the AL record for home runs in the season, and I think he will do that. This team has been pretty good, but has been riding the coattails of guys like Raleigh who have been putting up those big numbers. Julio Rodriguez has been solid this year, but nothing crazy. He was rather undeserving of an all-star spot, but he got one. Arozarena has been decent going into the break after a really terrible start to the season. I do think the Mariners can make a decent push here, but overall, I'm not sure that they have what it takes to be a top 10 team at the moment. So yeah. Next, we're going to put the Boston Red Sox. So we have 15, 14, 13, 12, and 11. So the last team in this category here is the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox are currently sitting at third in the AL East at 53-45. Their team has got a decent young core. Roman Anthony just got called up. Garrett Crochet has been outstanding. But ultimately, I don't know that this team has what it takes to really make a huge playoff push. They should probably make the playoffs this year. I don't know that they have what it takes to make a huge push, though, especially in the division that they're in with some teams that are outstanding this year that we have yet to talk about. Our first top 10 team here is going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, this team has been unreal based on their payroll. Junior Caminero, Brandon Lowe, Josh Lowe has been really good, Yandy Diaz. They have a really good starting rotation that's been solid this year. Their bullpen's been solid this year. They put up a ton of runs with a 61-run differential on the year. They've had a rough go into the All-Star break, 2-8 in their last 10 games, but before that, they were one of the best teams in baseball for most of the first half of the year. So I do like the Rays to get back to their winning ways here. I like them to make a pretty good push, and they could be a sneaky team to match up against in the playoffs. At the 9 spot here, we got a lot of ways we could go here. We do have a lot of ways we can go here at the 9 spot. Ultimately, I'm going to go with the New York Mets. Mets have been cold going into the All-Star break. They had a really rough month of June and into July. They have turned it around. They're 6-4 in their last 10. A 45-run differential on the season at 55-42. Second place in the NL East. They have all the star power that it takes. They really do. But can their starting rotation, make it work? Can their bullpen make it work? Their bullpen was extremely rough in the first half of the year, especially during that long losing streak. So for me, it's gonna come down to if their pitching staff can turn it around and if their bats like Juan Soto can maintain the hot streaks that they've been on. So we're gonna put them at 9. They are a playoff team, and they are a team that has what it takes to make a pretty deep run again this year. At number 8 here, we're gonna go with the Yankees. Once again, very similar to the Mets. The Yankees, It's going to come down to their pitching. It's going to come down to their pitching. It's going to come down to their pitching. They have all the star power needed on offense with Judge and Bellinger and Jazz Chisholm. I can go on and on about their offense. They have what it takes. They did have a really rough stretch in June where they weren't scoring many runs. But ultimately, I mean, it's the New York Yankees. They're one of the highest payrolls in baseball. They went to the World Series last year. But right now, we're going to put them in the 9 spot because they've just been a bit shaky, especially with that bullpen. The Devin Williams trade has not worked out for them at all. Their closer is inconsistent. Their back-end bullpen's been inconsistent. We got to put them at 9. At number 8, we're going to go with the Phillies. The Phillies are a good team, 55-41. Can they stay healthy? That's the question. Their stars are older. Bryce Harper has been dealing with injuries all year. 10, 9, 8, 7. They're in the 7 spot. Bryce Harper's been dealing with injuries all year. Kyle Schwarber's had a ton of home runs this year, but he's also aging. He's going to have to stay hot, and he's been carrying them this year, in my opinion. Trey Turner's getting older. Castellanos is getting older. That's just the one thing that the Phillies lack going into the second half of the season is that youthfulness. Now, they do have Zach Wheeler, who, when you get to the playoffs, basically is going to almost guarantee them a win for that first game or whichever games he pitches, so that is a huge advantage for them. But ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to. And then finally, in the 6th spot, we're going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays. They are currently leading the AL East, 55-41. This team has been a huge surprise. The one thing with the Blue Jays is they only have a plus 17 run differential on the season. So when they win close games. When they lose big, right? So that's the problem with the Blue Jays right now is they just are not really putting teams away. They're winning a lot of close games, which means that regression could be coming. That being said, this lineup has been extremely consistent. They're scoring, they're winning, they know how to win games, they're leading the AL East, which is, in my opinion, one of the best divisions in baseball. So you can't argue that. You got to put them at the 6th spot. Now, as we get into the top 5 here, this is where things kind of open up here. This is where things kind of open up for potential World Series appearances. In the 5 spot, we're going to go with my Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers have probably the best rotation in baseball from top to bottom in terms of consistency. There aren't many teams that are better. And their bullpen's been outstanding as well. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders in the small ball game. The one thing that the Brewers are currently lacking and could change their season entirely is a power bat. The one thing that one thing that we are missing is that guy in the lineup like we had last year in Willy Adames that can open the game up with home runs. It's starting to pick up with Churio and Yelich starting to hit some home runs. But if we look at where the Brewers land, they're bottom 10 in baseball in team home runs this year, and they're going to need that in the playoffs in games that are going to be close, and they're going to be won on a single swing of the bat. So if the Brewers can go get a guy like Eugenio Suarez or Alex Bregman, something like that, this team could seriously have a deep playoff run. But without it, I think it's going to be a struggle that's going to be relying heavily on that starting rotation that has got them this far so far this year. At the 4th spot, we're going to go with the Houston Astros. Astros started off shaky this year, but they are currently sitting at 56-40, number 1 in the NL West. I mean, I'm pleasantly surprised by the Astros this year. I didn't expect them to be doing this well, if we're being honest. No Kyle Tucker, no Alex Bregman. They lost their core. They still have Jose Altuve. They've had some young guys like Cam Smith that have been just kind of going up the entire trajectory of the season. Christian Walker's been a huge disappointment. If he figures it out, they're going to be dangerous. The Astros are just playing really good ball in terms of their record, and they aren't even playing their best ball based on their capabilities. So the Astros could be a very scary team here. At the number 3 spot, we're going to go with the Chicago Cubs. Pains me to say this as a Brewers fan, but the Cubs have just been outstanding this year. 57-39, number 1 in the NL Central, right behind the Dodgers for the 1 seed overall in the NL. Man, Kyle Tucker's been awesome for them. PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, has been one of the best players in baseball this year. He's been an extremely exciting young player. Their pitching rotation is where they need work. If they can get a good starter this year, look out for the Cubs going into the playoffs. At the 2 spot here, we're going to go with the Dodgers. I mean, this is the highest payroll in baseball. They've just been insane. All-stars every single spot on the field. I mean, Ohtani, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, you name it. They're ice cold lately, and they're still number 1 in the NL. So it's hard to argue that they're in the 2 spot. They're a World Series favorite for a reason, and they should make a deep run. And then the number 1 team in baseball, we got to give credit to the Detroit Tigers, 59-38. They have the best record in baseball. They have 6 All-Stars. Riley Green's been outstanding. Kerry Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, Tariq Skubal is the best pitcher in baseball. Their bullpen's been outstanding. The Tigers are the #1 team in baseball, and I think that they have serious World Series potential this year. A Dodgers-Tigers World Series could be extremely possible, but any of these top 5 teams, in my opinion, have a chance to make a deep run. And yeah, so that is going to conclude the power rankings from 30 to 1 in the MLB. Let me know what I got wrong, what I got right, where your team should be if I got it wrong, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all when we get back on the live streams with the second half of the season.